what's tougher for me was not being homeless. What's tougher for me was being separated from my kids. And call us what? Suicide squad or whatever it is. We knew that we were not going to. We knew what we are getting into.
Were you at all worried that there's a chance you might lose your deposit?
Of course.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Help Desk. I'm your host Drew. Today I'm joined by my really good friend Tarun.
Hello.
Hey Tarun. And we are joined on today's show by RDU candidate Liyana Dhamirah. She has an incredible story of overcoming homelessness. It's a really powerful story. We had her on the show to tell us about that period of her life where she was homeless. If you haven't heard it already, I think really worth a listen. If you have heard it already, still stick around because she gives us more insights, lets us into her thinking during that period. And of course, we talked about the general election in 2020 and 2025. So Tarun, dial out the episode. Let's get to it. Toot, 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 toot. Liyanah.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It was a big day for you yesterday. You were unveiled as a candidate for Jurong West, Bukit Batok?
Jurong East, Bukit Batok.
Okay, it's so hard to keep track. There's so many Jurongs.
Right.
Last time it was just Jurong GRC, but now it's what? Jurong East, Bukit Batok.
Yes, it felt as if the rug has been pulled off from under our feet. It was previously Jurong GRC, and now it was split into two. Jurong West, West Coast GRC, and Jurong East, Bukit Batok GRC now.
Yeah. So how did it feel? It's. So I was looking at the map, the boundaries. It is, I guess, largely similar to Jurong GRC, I guess, or like a big part of it is similar to Jurong GRC. So you're kind of going back to the same area as last time.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I think for us, it's more of welcoming the new grounds, which is previously Hong Kong North SMC has now been subsumed to Jurong East, Bukit Batok GRC, as well as part of Yu Hua as well that has been subsumed into the new GRC. So for us, we've been, since the GE2020, we've been walking the ground after. So we're not like, we just pop out during GE2020 and then we, go on with our lives, but we do still get back to the ground, meet the residents over there over the past 5 years. So now it's more of, extending the reach and the walk towards Hong Kong North, towards Yu Hua, the parts of the constituencies that has been subsumed to the new GRC.
Yeah. We kind of mentioned GE 2020. I was telling you earlier, before we started the interview, that the last GE I kind of kickstarted. For myself, the first interview I did of last GE was with Michelle, previously from the RDU. I think you guys had just been registered. And I was going through my stuff and I found this this RDU badge. It's like a
that's an antique already now.
It's a little bit like rusted and brown, but Michelle told me it was like one of the first 5 that was made or something like that.
Yes, one of the first 5, definitely. I remember we kind of like, it's handmade.
Yeah.
This one.
So if RDU ever becomes the ruling party of Singapore, I'll be able to auction that off for like quite a bit of money, I would think.
You're making me think I should collect like election paraphernalia.
How do you say it? Memorabilia?
And just like keep it in a little box.
Wow.
So Michelle was nice enough to give that to me when I interviewed her. And I thought like, hey, this is a nice little keepsake from the whole thing. That was the first interview I did of GE 2020.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that you still have it with you.
Yeah. I'll let you hold on to it, but then I think I'll ask for it back. So I think it's pretty special. Yeah. But anyways, like I said as well before the interview, your story is one that we've kind of been aware of. We've covered on Mothership before. And I wanted to get you on today to find out a bit more about that. And to hear, I guess, straight from you, what that whole journey was like. So I think you've spoken extensively about being homeless. You've written a book about it as well. But maybe for those who are unaware or who haven't read the book or who haven't read, the multiple articles we have on Mothership about that, how exactly did you end up homeless?
How exactly did I end up homeless? It was kind of like coming back full circle because this month is still the Hari Raya month, the Hari Raya Idul month. Yeah. So how I ended up homeless back in September 2009 was during the first day of the Hari Raya Aidilfitri. Yeah, that was in the morning where I returned back to my then mother-in-law's house, and without any hint of warning or any heads up at all, that I found our clothes, my belongings all got thrown out of the HDB flat window.
Gosh.
And luckily it was a unit at the corridor, so he landed at the corridor and not downstairs.
Right.
And what I can recollect is that I have to pile out all my things because it got thrown out of the window. They locked the door. We couldn't even enter at that point to collect all our belongings, and we just have to. Basically, I just got chased out of my then mother-in-law's house.
Yeah. And then you, if I recall the story correctly, you took a cab to Sembawang Beach, right?
That's
and then set up a tent there.
There's
quite a few things that I find like quite, I don't know what the word would be, like crazy about the story. First, that it happened during Hari Raya, right? Which is it's nuts. I guess the one that I'm curious about as well is you mentioned that you had just quit a relatively well-paying job, a stable job, at a multinational corporation, right?
Yes, that's right.
And to go from that to like homeless in like such a short period of time, that to me seems crazy. How does that even happen?
It seems like it may be depicted in movies or dramas, right? But it happened in real life.
Yeah.
At least for me, that's my experience. I would say that at that point when it all happened, it happened at one shot, one after another. And to me, that was the spiraling downwards moment in my life. And that was the worst that I faced in terms of any adversities that I had, even way before I got married. So on that very day itself, when that happened, we got chased out and then I have to move to Sembawang Park. In my mind, it's more of like, it just happened abruptly.
Yeah.
And at that sudden moment, I was like, okay, let's just find somewhere temporary to stay.
Yeah.
And that's where we ended up at Sembawang Park, thinking that, okay, let's tent up and, just ride over the festive period, which happens to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
And then find other maybe solutions when Monday comes after the festive period. And that was the initial thought. So it's more of like, okay, let's try to make sense of what happened first.
Yeah.
And calm ourselves down before we try to think about, what are the solutions that we can have after. So still in the solution mode at the point of time when that happened.
Yeah.
Still trying to find the positive out of whatever is happening at that moment. And in hindsight, right, after reflecting back on that, and as you are asking me that question, I can say that there wasn't an ounce in me that thought that was my worst. Or that,
your worth.
Yeah, my worst.
Worst, okay.
Yes, I was thinking that, that is part and parcel of trying to salvage a marriage or trying to make amends with family members. So at that moment, that was where my mind was at. So I take it on as part of the challenge of trying to make amends with family members. Yeah.
Would you say like it didn't hit you at that moment, like how serious or kind of?
It didn't hit me at that moment. I wouldn't say that I was delulu at that point. No, I wasn't. I wasn't in a bubble that, let's look at the positive side. No, I wasn't. However, it didn't occur to me that was that hard.
Right.
Or it is the beginning of a series of, some may call it a series of unfortunate events. Yeah.
I mean, and then at what point did it hit you that like, okay, I'm in quite a drastic situation?
Well, because you didn't think you were going to be there for that long, right? You thought it's just a weekend.
Yeah.
So at what point were you like, oh shit, like, I don't know, I guess this is, I'm going to be staying in a tent.
That's a very good question. I hadn't got a chance to be asked to someone ask me that before.
Yeah.
I think when it hit me that this is gonna be the long haul for me, was when we got tip from the park cleaners that the NEA officers are coming to inspect the tent owners and their licenses to pitch a tent there in the park.
Yeah.
That was when it hit me that, oh my goodness, back then the licenses that we have to get from, I think what's that system called? There's the machine that we have to register to get a license to pitch a tent at the park. The period for the validity of the license was only 7 days.
Okay.
So after 7 days, you need to use another person's particulars to register again.
Oh, okay.
And going through that pattern or that cycle, that was when it dawned upon me that I'm in this for the long haul.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the point of time, I think after a month or a month and a half after staying at that park, trying to find help but didn't receive any, and back to when I got the tip from the park cleaners about the NEA officers coming to check on our licenses.
Yeah.
That was when because when I was there, a month and a half already has gone by. I got to know the other park stayers.
Yeah.
The other families were staying there as well. So we got to get to know each other, make friends. So we kind of like develop our own kampong over there, like our own community. And upon receiving the tip from the park cleaners, that was where we get together to have like a town hall.
Right.
If you can call it that way.
Right.
Back then, and discuss where to next, because we need to evade from the authorities in order not to be chased out of the park. The only place that we can kind of like find solace or put up or, find a roof over our head, whatever that means at that point. So yeah, that was when.
Yeah, you guys moved between Sembawang and West Coast.
That's right. That's right. In the dead middle of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. I mean, you met other people as well who had kind of pitched their tents there. Were they in similar situations as well? They'd been kicked out of homes and.
It varies. So I think the background or the backstory of how they got themselves there at the park differs from one family to another, from one couple to another, from one individual to another. So there's different demographics of park stayers over there.
Right.
Yeah.
And none of them, surprisingly, could resonate themselves as being homeless.
Okay.
To them, this is just temporary
Right.
until they sort things out for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I can share the kind of families that I get to meet over there, one family of 6 or 8, if I can recall it correctly, and I covered this in the book as well, that they landed at the park because they couldn't finance their house back then. I think one of the HDB flat unit.
Okay.
And then they got chased out. And this is also due to dwindling financial issues that they have as well. And this is also due to the cost that one of their family members have to had a surgery for some illness and has a bag that is attached to him.
Okay.
Post-surgery.
Gosh.
Yes.
And he was there in the park with the bag?
With the bag.
Wow.
Yes,
Okay.
attached to his body.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of medical issues, the other thing that I find crazy about this whole thing is that you were pregnant at the time. That is nuts. That must have been so stressful.
And when I reached the park, I wasn't showing at that point because I was, I think, 3 or 4 months pregnant back then. So it's still in the early trimester of the pregnancy. And at that moment, knowing others who's going through such hardships, it wasn't news to be shared across the community.
Yeah.
And I didn't dare to share with any one of them, though I get to know them during the course of a few months staying at the park, right?
Yeah.
In sharing about my pregnancy or even, sharing with them the news that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want any special treatment in a way to be looked upon as, oh, no, you don't do that. Think about your babies, something like that. And don't carry heavy stuff, that kind of treatment.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be treated equally so that I can lend my weight, put in my contributions to all the efforts that we made as a community over there to survive at that moment.
Yeah.
So, for example, right, the efforts that or the contribution that we do are such like, we go into the forest, we go and salvage. No, not salvage. It's either we go to the food centers to salvage the vegetables that was thrown out by the shopkeepers. You know, those unsellable vegetables
yeah.
where they are
Like
overripe,
blemished or
or
something like that,
blemish,
yeah.
that's those kinds. Or we go into the forest and kind of like dig up some sweet potato or some greenery. So during that point, I think I got to learn about what is this plant called? Is this plant edible or not? Is this plant poisonous or not? So I learned all of that when I was homeless back then.
So what is it actually like to be homeless in Singapore? I mean, you never, like even you, I remember you in your book or in one of the articles you mentioned that like you didn't realize that there were homeless people in Singapore before that, right?
Yes.
So what is the day to day like? What do you just sit on the beach the whole day or are you
Just
out?
lounging, is it?
Yeah. Like honestly,
I hope we could have done that back then, or treat it like a vacation in some form of way. Day to day as a homeless individual in Singapore, I think apart from evading authorities,
okay,
so that we don't get chased out of the park, is that we have to wake up early in the morning, like super early, like 4+ a.m., so that we can shower
okay,
before the public come to use the park.
okay,
Because when you're thinking about Sembawang Park, West Coast Park, they're pretty close to residences. And people who live there normally come to the park to exercise in the morning,
okay,
to have their jog, to have their recreational activities. And for us who were homeless back then and are kind of like finding some shelter at the park, tend to try to fit in with the park goers or the park users as much as possible. So we woke up at 4 a.m. to shower, and of course it's cold shower. We don't have warm or water heater at the park, public toilets there, right? And we try to wash our clothes that we use in the toilet as well. So it's either in the sink or at the foot wash area.
okay.
Before there is any public eye around us. So there wouldn't be any questioning, like, why are you washing your clothes, things like that.
Yeah.
So that we try to do before dawn sets in. When the sun is up, that is where we can see more people coming into the park. So we will rest at at any one of the shelters at the park, and then have conversation with one another. That was when, we get into conversations of sharing resources, getting updates on what have you done to find help for yourself with, the other families, sharing stories between each other, like what to look for, what to share, what to ask for, what kind of help can we get, like, those kind of things.
Yeah.
And then in the later part of the morning, that was when we go foraging. Like I mentioned, right? We dig out.
Okay.
We go to the forest. We got some food stuff for us to prepare. So mainly, we usually have one meal a day.
Yeah.
When we were there, homeless. And when I say one meal a day, would be like a proper meal with rice and a dish, perhaps, right? Rice with one dish. Or if we manage to forage some vegetables, that is where there is 2 dishes in a way for that meal.
And you guys would you pool your resources together to go and buy like this rice?
Oh yes. So when it is like end of the month, the other families will like pool together some of the extra pocket money that they have after settling what they need to kind of like buy some ingredients like oil, rice, some ingredients to cook. We can't of course buy frozen food or things like that to stock, right? So we will resort to buying canned food like sardines, stuff like that, to kind of like prolong or preserve whatever that we can preserve, whatever food that we can keep for a longer time when perhaps foraging is not a option for us, or perhaps when we do not have food to cook or to even eat on that day.
Yeah.
So that's one. Where was I? So in the mid-morning foraging, right? And then in the afternoon, preparing the ingredients. So some of us, that particular afternoon slot, post lunch was when we will usually go to organizations like the Family Service Center,
Okay. Yeah.
now known as the social service agencies, to find help. Before returning, because that will take the day, right? So
Yeah.
before returning, before I think 7 p.m. So that will be time for us to cook dinner, for me at least to cook dinner for the whole community and set in for the night. So
Okay.
that's how our day-to-day life for weekdays. For weekends, it's usually the same, but more of blending in with the park goers.
Okay.
So we tend to not cook over the weekend because it will attract, like people will be thinking, why are these people cooking? And
Yeah.
we store all the cooking utensils and the oils and the rice in a kind of like a styrofoam box.
Yes.
So it
Okay.
doesn't look as if we have a makeshift kitchen over there.
Yeah.
Still look very well packed.
So you kind of got to pack up the.
Yes, every time we use it,
Yeah.
we got to pack it up every single day.
Yeah.
And over the weekend, we tend to depend on leftover foods from the users who barbecue over
Okay.
there.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
so some of them are pretty nice. They will approach like some people around, or perhaps they know that
okay.
these people has been around for some time, and ask if they would like some food from their barbecue.
Yeah,
Because they have too
okay,
much, they
okay.
barbecue too much, according to them, that they can't finish, and we are welcome to take some for ourselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
On that note of finding help and giving help, there's this particularly heart-rending moment in your book where you're talking about, you hesitated to contact your relatives because
Oh, yeah.
you if I remember, you sort of said, why am I bothering them
Yes.
during that time of
This was during the Hari Raya period as well.
The morning
right?
of Hari Raya.
Yeah.
It was exactly at the morning of Hari Raya. Oh no, I think that was by the time when I was dialing the number on my phone. It was actually the night time.
Okay.
At that point. Yeah, at that moment, I was thinking that I don't want to bother them. One, because it's Hari Raya. They would have been like visiting their family members, going here and there, and who would have the time to like pick up the phone and entertain someone who is going through some problem on that point. And secondly, I think I don't want to be a buzzkill for people who are enjoying the festivity
Okay.
and bog them down with my own issues. So I think that was the two factors that withhold me from contacting my family and friends on that particular day. But I tried to reach out like days after.
Yeah.
And I tried to kind of like ask if I can couch serve or if there's any room, spare room to rent. But I think the different people or the family members and the friends that I reach out to are facing their own problems, their own challenges, and they wouldn't say outright to me that, oh, we can't have you, or we can't rent out our spare room to you.
Yeah.
They will give a response such as, oh, actually, I'm waiting for so and so to come and visit me, so I need to
Okay.
have the room vacant for until that so and so reach, and have a place to stay with me. Things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Did they knew that you were sleeping rough at Sembawang?
They knew. Yes,
Okay.
they knew that I was tentatively at that point, temporarily staying in a tent.
I don't know. I often think about, because I have read other stories about people who become homeless, and like it's crazy how fast it can happen, right? Like one day you have a job, the next day for some reason your landlord increases the rent, you can no longer afford to pay it. Before you know it, you're out on the street, you can't find another place, right? So it can happen so quickly. But I often like think like, man, if I was in a situation like that, would I have someone that I could call that would definitely allow me to just like sleep on the floor of their living room even?
Right.
Something like that, right? So I kind of go through the list of people in my head that I would be able to do this with, and like, you hopefully have like one or two names that pop up at least, right?
Yes.
Like my brother or something like
Yes,
that.
yes.
My mom hopefully, or my dad.
Yeah.
So I just find that like so crazy that, man, that it must have been so tough for you that like no one would take you in, and you were pregnant as well. That's the other crazy thing.
Yeah. I mean, what's tougher for me actually was to separate myself from my two young boys at the point of time.
Yes. They lived with your mom, right?
Yes, because I wanted them to be in a safer environment. I wanted them to not go through what I'm going through at that point of staying by the beach. So I made a decision to let them stay with my mom, who was at the point of time staying in Johor Bahru. So it's opposite the causeway. That was tougher for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm tearing
No,
up.
it's okay. Take a moment. Do we have? I appreciate that it's not an easy thing to remember or to talk about. So thank you so much for being vulnerable and open with us.
Yes, and I think for me, I don't expect to. As I recollect, right, I did not expect to be so affected by it.
Yeah.
But this is something I think I didn't share in my book as well. That what's tougher for me was not being homeless. What's tougher for me was being separated from my kids at that point.
They were living in Malaysia. Is that correct?
Yes, and they were young, so they hadn't started primary school. They're still in their pre-primary age. So one was 6, one was 4 back then. And yeah, they were still living with my mom. They are having a good time. So on and off, when my mother has to run some errands or have to do some appointments in Singapore, she will drop the kids over to me, and they will spend some time or over the weekend in the tent with me.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I usually tell them that we are having what did I call that previously? We are having a staycation by the beach. We are just pitching up a tent to, spend some time in nature. Then I let them get engrossed with finding activities to do by the beach, like play, swim in the sea, play with the sands, or play at the playground.
That's the thing about being a parent, right? You never want to let your kids. I'm not a parent myself, but you never want to let your kids really see the full extent of like the challenges that you're facing.
Yes, at that point, I think where I'm coming from is because I myself have a rough childhood.
Yeah.
And I do not want my children to go through the same like I did. And that's why I have to create such a memory for them so that it doesn't come across as something traumatic. At least I hope that it come across as a joyful memory for them, that they get to stay for some time, for a longer time than they used to by the beach, and have fun in the sand, have fun by the beach, by the sea, swim. All of that kind of joyful memory. So that was my aim at that point.
When you talk to your kids now, I mean, your oldest son would be 21?
Yeah, 21, turning 22 now.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
fast.
Yeah. I read the letter that you wrote to him, I think when he had just turned 17 or something like that.
That was a Facebook post.
Yeah. When you talk to your son about it, your two eldest sons, what do they remember of that period?
Interestingly, right? When the book got published in 2019, I drummed up the courage, whatever left in me, to present it to my kids. And they were teenagers back then. Yeah, 2019, they were teenagers back then. So I encouraged them to read the book.
Okay.
And
that must have been scary.
It was scary for me because I should prepare, like I'm preparing myself to the kind of questions that will come up after they read the book.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and one liner that my eldest son said to me, and I wouldn't forget that, was that he said, "Thank you, Mama, for protecting us." After I read this, I kind of like connect the dots as to why we were staying by the beach longer.
Yeah.
Before I read the book, my memories were such that it was a joyful family time that I had. It was a fun excursion for us as a family. It have never occurred to me that we were homeless back then. Thank you for sharing your story too and being brave in sharing this with us. That was what he said, and
Take a moment. Why don't we thank you for, being vulnerable with us. I really appreciate it. Actually, when you were telling that story about your son, I was just thinking about something I wrote about my dad as well. Because, I guess similar to you, my parents divorced when I was quite young as well. And those are tough times for everyone involved.
For anyone.
Yeah.
Any child.
Yeah. For me, and also for the people who are getting divorced as
Yes,
well, right? And so
that's
you see a lot of things that, you don't necessarily want to have seen. And then when a few years ago I wrote a story about my dad and my memories of him going through that period. My dad's a very stern, no, not a stern guy, but he's not a super emotional person. But I was afraid to let him read it almost. I never told him that I wrote that piece, even though it's out there on Mothership.
Oh, wow.
And a whole bunch of people have read it. So I often wonder to myself, I was just thinking about that when you spoke about letting your sons read that.
Right.
I often wonder to myself, like, if I'll ever tell my dad about that, or if and I wouldn't want him to read it before it's too late. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
I gotta figure that part out. I think I want to move on a little bit from, because that was what? How long were you homeless for? Like 4-5 months?
Around there, about 4 months.
Yeah, so it's actually a relatively short period of your whole
Of being
journey.
by the beach.
Yeah.
But then moving to interim rental housing.
Yes.
To the shelters.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that I have a home at a point. It
Okay,
was still,
okay, of course.
I kind of like still couch surfing
Yeah.
at during those periods.
You were like living in the living room, right? Basically,
Yes, it's not even a room.
Yeah.
It's the living room space where like the other families will have to share the usage with us as well.
Yeah. So interesting fact was that you were actually helped out by, now RDU chief Ravi Philemon and TOC's Andrew Lowe. Like they somehow bumped into you when you were at Sembawang.
Yeah, interestingly, that now the person who has helped me like a decade ago is now the SecGen of the party that I'm with,
Yes.
the political party that I'm with. Yeah, how interesting life can be, right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And this is something that if you were to ask me 10 years ago, is it something that I can foresee happening to me?
Yeah.
I absolutely will tell you no.
Okay.
Not, or maybe I could even say never. But then there is a saying, never say never, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what got me involved with RDU?
Yes.
And this, if I can have a moment to
Yeah,
us back
please do. I mean,
2020.
since you mentioned Ravi.
Yes. I am not a political person. I don't think any of us are naturally born to be involved in politics or even thought of politics as something that would impact our everyday lives. So one day back in 2020, I got a phone call from Ravi.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was working, and it was COVID period also.
Yes.
Right, 2020 was during
Yes.
the phenomenon of all of that happening.
Circuit breaker and all that
Circuit
happening in
breaker,
2020.
yes.
Yeah.
And I remembered I was working from home because that was when we had to transit to during the circuit breaker
Right.
period. No one can be working from the offices. Everybody has to go work from home.
Yeah.
So when the call came through, I was on my laptop, typing away, replying to emails, and I have on the side of my head, between my shoulders and my ears, a phone where Ravi was on the other line, and he was talking about something about, I need your help to set up a organization. We feel that this year will be election year, and it is crucial for us to do this. Hopefully, we can do this in time for the election for this year itself.
Okay.
So his call was to ask for a favor from me if I would be open to be part of the founding member of the political party that is going to be registered
Yes.
with ROS, with the registration of societies. So when the call came in, right, that was the moment where I kind of like got myself settled in life already. So I moved into a new home.
Yes.
I got remarried. I had a baby. So I had a newborn at that point of time that I was raising as well. So that's my fourth child,
Yeah.
other than my three. And pretty much life was pretty much settled for me.
Okay.
So I think there was a tinge in me at a point that I was saying to myself, I don't want to rattle a safe boat right now.
Okay. Yeah.
In a way.
Yes, of course. No,
Yeah,
that really makes sense.
Yeah, so there's a tinge of me that thought about, we are comfortable. So why do we want to kind of like push things beyond the boundaries, if that makes sense in any way?
Yeah, of course.
However, there is another part of me, which I can draw upon from what my work friend, colleague, or a good friend shared with me, and that was, okay, so I digress a bit, okay? I'm going to share this part of me where I was sharing, I'm so tired, I just want to like retire somewhere and like raise like just live in a farm, raise rabbits, and grow vegetables, grow strawberries, maybe that's my favorite fruit. And and we just lead a simpler life. I'm just tired of being in Singapore. And then something that my friend said that kind of like stayed with me was that she said, but Liyanah, all fair and square, you can move wherever you want, you can retire at a farm. But I can see, right, you have this thing in you where as you're farming, then you see all the other farmers get ill-treated, get taken advantage of by corporates. Like they're being leveraged for almost like a slave labor for some commercial interests. And then you will set up a union, and then you will fight for these farmers. And when will you retire?
And then you'll want to retire again.
So I think what made me say yes to Ravi's call, so that was the instance that I had with my friend that stick with me and say, oh yeah, I have that part of me. So that was what made me say yes. That part of me was what made me say yes after going through days, not months, days, not even weeks, of discussing with my husband what are the pros and cons, what I should be concerned of, what I should take note of, what I should be ready to sacrifice, things like that, if I were to say yes to this call.
Okay.
And there's also another factor. While I have to make such a quick decision over days and not weeks or months, was because Ravi gave me a deadline. Like to come back to him.
What was the deadline he gave you?
I think it was something like a week or less, around there. Yes.
Jeez. I mean, to be fair, so RDU was registered like literally 8 days before the election was called. So I think he needed some, he had to get things moving pretty quickly.
Yes,
right,
that's right. So it was like taking the most of the time that we have left at that point.
Yeah.
So after discussion over the few days with my husband, getting his blessings, talking with my children over, right? And I said yes to becoming part of the founding members of the political party, which is RDU now.
Yes.
I mean, then we don't even have a name.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't know it was even RDU at that point. So before we register with the registration of society with ROS, we came together, all, I think, if I'm not wrong, 11 or 12 of us. We came together, and then that is when I got to know all the other founding members of RDU. And at that moment was when we kind of like trash what will be our party's name.
Okay.
At that point where we are supposed to submit our application, and include all of our agreement, our consensus on what can be our party's name.
So how much input did you have in the name? Because I've heard on different podcasts, like Ravi said, like one of his ideas is something about like Republicans, or like National Front, or something a bit more aggressive.
We did have many permutations of Red Dot United before it became Red Dot United.
Yeah, I heard that on Yalla Butt, by the way. I think I should cite them.
We had like different permutations before we agreed on Red Dot United.
Yeah.
And why we agreed on Red Dot United was also because of keeping it, at least having some relevancy for the younger ones.
Okay.
We want to attract the youths to be part of the political discourse. We want to have more young voices to give their contribution or ideas to what can be ideal for the country. We want the younger ones or those who may usually be ignorant about political policies and all that knots, to kind of find an interest in then finding out what's going on. So it's
Okay.
more of a angle of capturing interest in what we are all about
Yeah.
and what we stand for. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Ravi gave you like a week or whatever to decide. Was there any discussion about what the party would stand for? I mean, like, were you at all worried that you would be like, okay, yeah, I'll sign up to be a founding member, and then Ravi comes out and says something like the manifesto is like something crazy or something? I don't know, because you're signing
because
your name.
I want to know what I'm getting involved
Yeah, exactly.
with, what I'm getting into as well, right? So, of course, before even we register with ROS, as we are trashing about our party's name, that was also when we were looking at the set of values that brought us together.
Okay.
And we, from the get-go of founding RDU, was we want to position the party towards more value-focused or value-driven policies,
Okay.
rather than personality or people-driven works.
Okay.
So that it can be kept as a legacy. So
I
it
see.
doesn't depend on Liyanah. When Liyanah is no longer around, some other like Tom, Maya, or whoever can carry on the name of RDU
Okay.
and the policies and the values that we drive on.
Presumably because they share those same values as the party. Okay.
Yes,
Got
yes.
it.
But I'm kind of curious. What was it about Ravi that kind of drew you in, about his pitch maybe, that kind of drew you into sort of saying, yeah, I want to be a part of this? And what was that?
That's a good question. I think what drew me into saying yes to Ravi was not because of his ask, not because of Ravi. But I think in my conversation with my family members, in reflecting what more can I give back to society, what are the forms of mode, and I think one thing about me is that I have this tendency to not feel. I feel uncomfortable in comfort. If I can put it that way, I don't know what it can mean.
Yeah,
but
yeah. You
I
get
feel uncomfortable
restless?
I get restless when things are very comfortable,
Yeah,
very
okay.
settled. Those. I mean, I am someone who likes to take on challenges,
Okay.
and I wouldn't say always, usually open to new experiences. So I think that factors were the ones that made me say yes to Ravi rather than Ravi asking me or whatever the part of Ravi piece. To be honest, when he was calling me over the phone, I was replying emails, right? I can't even recall what he was saying to me.
Right,
apart from, will you be open to being part of the 12 to register?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, so for the benefit of people who don't know the story, Ravi and Andrew Lohr came across you. They wrote a letter and then an article, I think, on TOC. And then the story is that you eventually found, from then on, you managed to find a roof over your head. You found a suitcase and made some jewelry. Just fast forwarding a little bit so we can catch up to speed. And then that
So
kind of
read
helped
the
you.
book. So you can get
Exactly. To get the full story, and then that's how you that was the start of you getting back on your feet.
Yes.
Right, from that moment. Okay, so going back to GE2020, right? I mean, you become a founding member of RDU, but it's a step from that to becoming an actual candidate itself and putting yourself out there.
Yes.
Because I might Ravi's calling you. He says, "Do you want to be a founding member?" Did he say to you at that point in time?
No.
Oh, okay.
Definitely not. So that was not part of the package.
Okay.
That was not. So I knew what I was getting into when I said yes in the application of forming out the political party.
Yes, you're ready to volunteer, help on the ground.
I'm ready to volunteer because I think prior to that in 2015, I've volunteered to help out Ravi when he was in his maiden candidacy back then.
Okay,
He was running in 2015. Ravi was running against Amy Kaur.
SPP, right?
Yeah,
No,
he was under the badge of SPP.
Yeah.
He was running against Amy Kaur, PP, in Hong Kong North SMC back then.
Yeah.
So I was one of the very eager volunteers helping him out. And I think I did a long Facebook post about that as well. About why I volunteered in 2015 for Ravi. So fast forwarding back to 2020. So I was in the mind that this is a step up from volunteering, right? So where I put my name to a registration of a political party.
Yeah.
That's one. Secondly, I'm in the mind that I can still continue volunteering as how I did 5 years ago for Ravi, for whoever that is involved in RDU at a point of time.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm going to be a candidate. that last part was not part of the package. It wasn't even explored when we were registering the political party, because we don't, first and foremost, we don't know whether it will get registered in time. That's one, for that year's the GE2020 election. And I think, I don't know if you call it naivety or my only hope, that I thought there are other people who are much more credible, more experienced, that can be put forth as a candidate.
Yeah.
Right? And we know at a point, after we know about our registration has been accepted by RS, and then we can be part of the election in 2020, we knew that the only constituency that we are going to field candidates in was in Jurong GRC in 2020. Why? Because no other opposition parties seem to be, I'm just going to be candid, okay? Brave enough to put their foot into Jurong GRC, because it's ingrained with, back then, Tharman. Right? And to be honest, he's one of my favorite ministers as well. So I would say that we don't see back in 2020 anyone who expressed any interest to be part of Jurong GRC. And to us, it will be such a waste if that GRC is going to get a walkover. Because what it means was that voices by the voters are not heard. You do not create the opportunity when a GRC has a walkover, when there is no contest.
I mean, earlier you said the thing about taking risk, right? This is an incredible risk because you are going up against, possibly one of the most popular politicians at that time, 2020. I mean, the presidential election showed just how popular he is, right? You're a brand new party, haven't done much groundwork in Jurong. Right? Or at all, maybe. Were you at all worried that there's a chance you might lose your deposit?
Of course. That was one of the potential that we put across on the table that might happen to us because of all the points that you've brought up, Andrew. And also because I think in the past, the election before, the other opposition party managed to obtain their deposits back. So we were also hopeful at the same time that we may not lose our deposit. We may be able to retain our deposit and maybe get like the same scores as a past opposition that was fielded in the same GRC against Tharman at a point. So interesting, we just talk about Tharman but not the other four. So anyway, but at that point, we knew of the risk, and we go in because we also knew that we were new. And I think we took that as an opportunity for us to put our name on the list of being recognized as a political party, because it's like a David and Goliath moment, right? We're taking on a real heavyweight. It's not nobody, it's somebody who is very popular. So we know that. And also, we knew that we are not going to win. That's for sure. We know that we're not going to win. Call us what? Suicide Squad or whatever it is. We knew that we were not going to. We know what we are getting into in the 2020 But what made us go forward, as what I mentioned earlier, we do not want the GRC to go through a walkover.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to give a choice to the voters there.
Yes, making it possible for the voters to even raise up their pen and vote.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So what was the feeling like on polling day, or when the results started coming in? You know, and you saw, I believe it was like 70 something.
70 odds, and then we got about 20 plus. So
Yeah.
for me, at least, I think because I'm still new to all of it, like I was not really involved in politics before.
Yeah.
I don't know how it all works. It's like on-the-job training for me when it happened in GE2020.
Yeah.
So I experienced it all. But when polling day happens, the result comes in, and even the days after that, right, after the results are in and it's concluded, it took me a while to let the results sink in.
Okay.
Yeah, it took me a moment to like digest what had happened. But the interesting fact is that being new, being unknown, being whatever you want to call it at that point, we still managed to get the support of out of every 4 voters.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the stats, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We gained at least more than 25% of the votes, enough to get our deposit back,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and also a percentage up from the past year's election from the other opposition.
Okay.
Right.
And mind you, this is still coming from a very new party, 2 weeks old. I would say that is quite an achievement.
Yeah. So you're
For
quite
us.
encouraged by the results, actually.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. And I'm sure relieved that you got your deposit back.
Yeah, a relief is one.
Yeah.
Secondly, I still look back at it as a battle scar because it was an intense 9 days of campaigning, you guys.
Yeah.
I lost sleep. I kid you not. We will usually turn up at our walkabout red eye during that 9 days of campaign.
Yeah.
It was a battle scar. It was a experience which is unlike no other. Even homeless. So it's a different set of experience.
Yeah.
And I was actually pretty fueled by it.
Okay. Fueled by it.
Yes, fueled by it.
Okay. Let's talk GE 2025 then. Let's come to the present. I mean, do you think this
Present.
year will be more intense than last time? You guys are running in way more. I mean, last time was just one. Now it's multiple GRCs and SMC as well. At least those are the ones confirmed so far, right? Do you think it'll be more intense this time around? The rallies.
I would say so. So I think in G2020 we got it pretty easier in a way, if I can put it in that kind of perspective, because everything is done online.
Yes.
Right? There wasn't any
A lot of social distancing.
Yes, no physical rallies and all of that. There's e-rallies, not online rallies. And this year it will come back to how it was in past elections before GE 2020.
Yeah.
So it will definitely be a new experience for me still. Maybe some of the processes and procedures will still be similar, will still be something that I had experienced in GE 2020. But the intensity, I still feel that it would be. I think I've prepared myself and even my family members. I'm not going to sleep enough during the 9 days of campaign after nomination day.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I think I've wisened up because I'm someone who, when I've gone through some events in life or some experiences or some projects, whatever that you want to term it as, right? That at the end of it, I would take a step back, reflect, and kind of like draw out the learnings that I can get from that.
Okay.
Before I can perhaps strategize or whatever it is in the future. So at least for this GE 2025, what I learned was to apply leave.
Okay.
That's important.
Yeah.
Because in 2020, I suffered burnout at the end of the year.
Right.
Okay.
When 2020 GE happened, I did not apply for leave from my work.
Oh.
So I only did apply on the on the important days, which is the nomination day and the polling day.
Yeah.
Right?
And so every other day of the campaign,
I was still working.
working.
Oh my gosh.
In the
okay.
middle of preparing speeches,
Yeah.
walkabouts, online rallies, all of that. Yeah, I'm still doing that. No,
And taking care of your kids.
No wonder I suffer burnout. Yeah, and taking care of my kids, yes, on top of it all.
From the moment you took that phone call, you
yes, talking about taking care of my kids, right? My newborn was like a few months only. She's still a baby.
Yeah.
So I was still, like taking care of a baby while doing all of that. So in hindsight now, and taking the learnings from GE2020, applying leave from work is one major thing that I've planned and I've already submitted, for at least a month off. I know that the campaigning, whatever it is, at least 2 weeks, but I'm taking a month. I know that it's important for self-care.
Yeah.
And I know that I can't give back until I'm fully taken care of myself. Yeah, I need to keep the cup full.
Was there any question over whether you would run again this GE?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
I was contemplating of not running
Yeah.
and just, supporting
Yeah.
other candidates.
I mean, I'm sure you would have been involved at least as a volunteer. You're the party treasurer, right?
Yes,
so you would have been
yes.
involved behind the scenes.
Yeah, I would be involved behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
I'm more happy to take a role behind the scenes, actually. So I was
Yeah.
contemplating that.
The party's much bigger now. I'm sure that there would have been other choices for candidates. So what made you decide you wanted to run again 2025?
What made me decide? Hey, this downs back to the strawberry and the rabbit, right?
Yes.
That story.
Yeah.
The fighter
The
in
farm,
me.
yeah.
Yes. Where I think what is the factor for me to make a more informed decision now and decide was that we, including myself, made a promise back then when we lost in GE 2020 in Jurong GRC that we will still be there for the residents.
Okay.
We will still be there. And we walked the ground over these 5 years as well. And when we felt, like I shared earlier, right, it felt as if the rug was pulled out under our feet, where Jurong GRC was split into two, was when I really made me think that, hey, let's not put all the hard work to waste. We've promised, we continue to deliver on our promise, and it would be, at least for me, akin to like breaking my promise to the residents if I were to pull myself out of candidacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think all in all, that was part of the factors that I say, okay, let's go. Let's run another round. Yeah.
Okay. And how do you think, what do you think success will look like for you this time around?
Of course, success is to win.
Okay.
We're not playing to lose.
Because to be clear, like in the last election, I mean, the reason why I asked this question, the last election you were
prepared to lose.
prepared to
Yeah.
lose.
Yes.
And quite clear that you probably wouldn't win, right? To be fair, you had a super short runway. I don't think anyone expected anything from you guys. So this time around, it's you're playing to win.
Yeah, we are. And why I'm saying this with conviction is that we did our work. We put boots on the ground. We were there. We didn't break our promise.
Yeah.
Even when the boundaries are updated to a different GRC, new GRCs are formed, but it still consists of, like what you've mentioned, the point that you brought out earlier, Drew, was that it still consists of a lot of the main parts of the past Jurong GRC, with an addition of Hong Kong North and Yuhua. That's one. And secondly, I think it's important for us to take our current leaders accountable for all their promises as well.
Yeah.
Because it's how we have delivered our part. Hey, why do we need to close one eye on our leaders? Come on, they are also receiving pay. So we need to keep them accountable to what they promised the residents, at least. And to being the proper checks in Parliament before rolling out any bills, before agreeing to any bills, before rolling out any laws, before agreeing to any amendments in any policies. So that's very, very important. And with the newer slate of PAP candidates, and two new faces also. So I think we have some, I would say, we have some confidence there that we can put up a good fight. Yeah.
I'm kind of curious. Do you feel like there's like a change in the vibe or like the atmosphere on the ground compared to G2020? You know, going in, do you feel more momentum or energy?
I would say different is one.
Okay.
The difference is that in 2020, I think due to many factors, COVID, whatever is happening during that year, I can see that back then, and also us being new, that there were reservations, there were doubts, there were less of a support, and there were, let's see how they do, that kind of vibes that we receive as we walk the ground. And of course, there were no, go away. Those kinds of vibes as well that we receive. The difference to now, when we put our boots on the ground, is we are welcomed warmly. I'm still heartened and I'm still surprised actually when one night we went to Clementi and then there was a group of residents over there having their meals at a hawker center. When we approached them, instantaneously when they receive our brochure, they look up. We voted for you. We want you to be in Parliament this year. Please, please, please do your best. We will continue our support for you. So those kind of messages, feedback that we receive from the ground, I think that is what sets the difference between then in 2020 and now in 2025. And I think also it combines with the fact that we walked the ground for over 5 years already. So we are kind of like familiar faces in a way, though we may not, up until now, I can honestly say that we can't, even I think at the end of this GE, after polling day on 3rd May, we won't be able to meet every single residents of Jurong East, Bukit Batok GRC. But we will try our very best. Yeah, because we know that the votes are not online.
Yeah.
The votes come from those behind the doors and the people we meet on the ground. Yeah, so those are the kind of different sentiments that we are at least experiencing now.
Okay. Speaking of on the ground, we have some questions. It's our usual segment on Help Desk where we get questions from people on the ground, I guess, different life decisions that they're facing. Are you ready to answer those questions? Well, let's do one, I think, for the sake of time.
Okay.
You're very busy, obviously, this campaign period. Okay, but before we get to the questions from you guys, if you are at home now, if you have anything that is weighing heavy on your chest, you know, some sort of life decision, big or small, that you are facing, you can write into us at the link that's on your screen right now. You can find that exact same link on our show description. And who knows, we might get someone with as varied life experience as Liyanah to answer your question. Yeah.
But a disclaimer, I wouldn't say that I'm a expert in,
none of us
in
are
giving
experts.
advice or you know, like
yes,
in a
good
position
disclaimer.
to give.
That's a disclaimer that me and Tharman should give as well.
Yeah, we should keep giving it. Like, please don't listen to my advice at all.
Okay, so this question comes from a viewer named Jojo, and Jojo writes, I feel like I'm unable to function in the current job that I'm in. I don't know what else to do. I was let go by jobs in the past and I feel like I can't go on anymore. I feel alone and have trouble connecting with friends or family. What should I do? Jojo wants to know what they should do.
Oh, Jojo, my heart goes out to you firstly. It's a challenging moment, I would say, to Jojo. At least for you going through all of this. And thank you for being open in sharing your vulnerabilities and obtaining advice. And this is good. This is one step towards you trying to find the solution for yourself, right? In getting a good long-term employment, hopefully. In areas like this, and I've come across similar instances in the past when I was running my own business and I was conducting interviews for hiring. I would say that to Jojo, before even going through another round of interviews or finding a new job, is to take a step back and take a moment to assess yourself. not to judge. That's a difference, right? Assessment and judging is different. So not to judge yourself, but to assess yourself and self-reflect actually to what may be your strengths and what may be your developmental areas. And I think that would be the initial foundation that once you know you're made aware of your strengths, your developmental areas,
Yeah.
it will naturally come from you on what you need to do. I believe in all of us, and I've worked with a lot of coaches, and a lot of coaches were in the past told me that the answers are in you, Liyanah. So the same that I would say to Jojo, the answers is in you, Jojo. So you have to extract that out from yourself,
Yeah.
reflect, get all of that pointers down, make a mental note of it or note it down even on paper, pen, and work on it. Because once you do that, and I'm seeing this because you write in a question, right? To ask about what you can do differently. So I think this is one step forward, and continue with that progress. Continue with self-reflecting. Once you've done that, work towards developing yourself, working on your developmental areas, and you may be surprised with yourself on how you conduct yourself in the next interview for a job.
So they're in this. I mean, according to the question, they are struggling in their current job. Obviously, want to be looking for another job soon, and so that's great advice. I'm wondering. I mean, as we heard your story earlier, you showed like incredible resilience to continue to do like the day-to-day things that you needed to do, even in a tough time.
Right.
For someone who's struggling in their job right now, do you have any advice for how they can continue to function when everything just feels like it's overwhelming or the world feels like it's caving in on them?
And they want to salvage what they have at the moment, right?
Yeah, yeah. Or you know, maybe he's not in a position where, or she's not in a position where she can quit her job before finding a new one.
That could be a
so that means that there could be like months where she would have to continue in this job that, you know, they're struggling in right now. What kind of advice would you have to someone in that situation?
I would say that the first advice still stays.
Okay.
Because regardless, at which point of your life, you will still need to reflect.
Yeah.
However, additionally, on top of that reflection, I think it will be best to find, in my word, at least, or in my language, is the glimmer of hope.
Okay.
In your current job, in your current setting where you're struggling in. Because there will be glimmers where you found that, the job and your values and whatever you like about the job in the first place when you join in and work there does connect in some ways. And try to tap on that connection first. Find why in the first place that you even sign up for that job. It could be different other factors, but there could be an inkling to, I'm passionate about the same cause for the job or whatever it is that you will need to tap on. Make it as a motivation for you, because once you find your passion, your purpose, then that is what will keep you going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that helps.
Yeah. No, I'm sure that would be super helpful. Tyrone, any thoughts on Jojo's question?
Yeah, I guess it gets to also the theme of this show, which is like, you know, asking for help, which is, I guess, I mean, you sort of mentioned how when you were in that sort of period, you know, you and the other families there were constantly sort of reaching out and trying to sort of get help. But I imagine asking for help is kind of challenging. You know, how do you do it? I mean, it can be a kind of embarrassing, almost like, you know, there's a lot of shame attendant to it. Like, how do you kind of like find, how do you maybe like sort of give advice to somebody who sort of feels hesitant to sort of say, I need help, to maybe their friends, their family?
And this is beyond opinions, okay? I can cite, I mean, I can't exactly cite which study, but there has been study conducted that an individual, a human, would rather stay away from being embarrassed or shame than asking for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would rather choose to be, to not be embarrassed, to not suffer from shame rather than, asking for help.
Yeah.
That the study has been conducted on that. So it's a fact that any of us may face, right? But I think at least for me, how I position myself or how my mindset has been even back then or up until now, as I was speaking to, because I work in an organization where we are encouraging and empowering other individuals to seek help for themselves first as they are going through their own challenges, right?
Yeah.
Is that to look at it as, to look at your current situation, the challenges that you're going through as a phase, like, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, stages of life that you are just going through for a moment, just a small duration in your lifetime that you're going through this. And due to that moment, it is imperative, it is important, it's crucial for you to ask for help first before you can step out of that phase, out of that situation, out of that stage, where then you can hopefully continue to grow and thrive. But in order for you to go towards that stage where you can hopefully develop, grow, and thrive, is when you need to seek help. And all of us need to know that shame, embarrassment, or even other people's opinion about you or what they can talk or comment about you when you are seeking help, or at least you are reaching out for help, doesn't help you to pay your bills. Most importantly, get the help that you need. Crucially, in the moment of time where you're facing that challenges, before you can work towards, all the other parts of your life. Yeah. It may seem like, it's dim, the tunnel is so dark, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. There will certainly be an opening at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I guess on the other side of that question, because we sort of put a lot of demands on people who are sort of in situations of crisis or distress to sort of say, you got to pull yourself up by bootstraps. You got to
give you like a week and then get yourself better.
Exactly, get yourself better. If you like, how do you sort of, what can we do more to sort of people who need help, kind of anticipating that. On the flip side of that, if you're Jojo's friends and families, like, is there things you should be looking out for? Do you think they have a kind of responsibility or need to?
Because they are Jojo's circle of influence or circle of safety, right?
Yeah.
And it is within those circles where he can get encouragement from, motivation from, or even a tinge of hope from.
Yeah.
So I think on the flip side, we as, the externals, those people who is not Jojo, the least we can do is just being kind. Because every one of us is fighting our own battles. And it could be that for Jojo, this battle that he's fighting is really, really hard for him right now. Yeah. And we just, as the people on the outside, be kind, be empathetic, be compassionate, and try to support in ways where it can help him to slowly inch out of that predicament that he's in at the point of time. And offer even resources, right? The only thing that I would actually caution the outside people from was trying to be a savior.
Right.
Because it's human also to try to be a hero.
You want to fix all the problems.
Exactly, to be the fixer, to be the, the hero. Basically.
If there's anything I know from dating my current girlfriend of 2 years is don't try and fix the problems.
I know.
Definitely not, yes. Though it comes from well-intentioned.
Yes.
Yeah, everybody who wants to do that comes from actually a good place.
Yeah.
However, I would emphasize this and caution to not be the fixer or the hero, because we will need to provide the chance and the opportunity for the individual to be empowered, to have the self-agency, to make his own choices, make his own decision, to move forward with whatever that he decides to fail or not to fail or to succeed. It's his own choice. But we, as the bystanders, at least, right, just, when he falls, like,
be there to support.
Yeah, support. And then give numbers, like helping hands towards, seeking help from certain organizations. So that is very important. Yeah.
Okay, so Jojo, there you have it. I think there's some really practical advice there for you. Don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need it. I think that's all the time that we have on today's Help Desk. Thank you so much, Liyanah. I really appreciate the sharing, the conversation. And I think your story is super, super powerful. So I'm sure that will connect to some of our viewers.
Thank you for making time for me today and having me over here. It was such a privilege. It was such an honor, actually. Thank you.
And thank you to the viewers for sticking with us throughout this episode. Thank you to Audio-Technica for powering the audio for this podcast. We'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye.